Before it conquered land, before it raised flags, the British Empire conquered something else: the sea. It began with maps, then ships, then the doctrine: rule the waves, rule the world. They built frigates in London, ironclads in Portsmouth, coaling stations in Malta, Singapore, and Bombay. Trade became territory: tea, opium, silk, all moved by cannon. In 1805, at Trafalgar, they crushed Napoleon's fleet. After that, no one challenged them on water, not for a century. They didn't need armies on every shore. They had sails and steam and strategy. The sun never set because the ships never stopped. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 208 CE, China was about to fall. Cao Cao had 800,000 men, ships, cavalry, chariots. The empire was almost his. South of the river, two smaller warlords remained: Sun Quan, Liu Bei. Together, they had fewer than 50,000. They didn't fight with force. They fought with wind and fire. Cao Cao's fleet was chained together, ship to ship, tight, powerful, immovable. That made it perfect for burning. One night, the Southern Fleet sent forward a gift: wooden fire ships soaked in oil, carried by the current, driven by the wind. Cao Cao didn't see it coming. His fleet couldn't move. It couldn't separate. It just burned. In hours, half his army was dead. The river boiled, and the empire split forever. This wasn't luck. It was planning. A strategy carved into water. And that night, the river itself chose a side. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 208 CE, China was about to fall. Cao Cao had 800,000 men, ships, cavalry, chariots. The empire was almost his. South of the river, two smaller warlords remained: Sun Quan, Liu Bei. Together, they had fewer than 50,000. They didn't fight with force. They fought with wind and fire. Cao Cao's fleet was chained together, ship to ship, tight, powerful, immovable. That made it perfect for burning. One night, the Southern Fleet sent forward a gift: wooden fire ships soaked in oil, carried by the current, driven by the wind. Cao Cao didn't see it coming. His fleet couldn't move. It couldn't separate. It just burned. In hours, half his army was dead. The river boiled, and the empire split forever. This wasn't luck. It was planning. A strategy carved into water. And that night, the river itself chose a side. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 331 BCE, Persia ruled everything east of Greece. Its king, Darius III, had 250,000 men. Alexander had 47,000, but Alexander had a plan. He positioned his army on open ground and made his center weak. On purpose. Darius sent chariots, archers, elephants, straight into the gap. Alexander let them in, then flanked them, then closed around them. It wasn't rage, it wasn't chaos. It was geometry. The maneuver is called double envelopment. It didn't just trap an army, it broke an empire. Darius fled. His crown hit the dirt, and the Persian world collapsed behind him. They still teach the tactic in military academies, 2,000 years later. Because on that day, Alexander didn't just win a war, he engineered the future. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 1904, the Herero people rebelled against German rule in what is now Namibia. They were farmers, nomads, parents. Germany responded with extermination. General Lothar von Trotha gave the order: all Herero must leave the land or die. They fled into the Namib Desert. Germany poisoned the wells, posted guards at the water, and waited. No bullets, just thirst. Those who returned were shot. Those who survived were branded. experimented on, sterilized, cataloged. By 1908, 80% of the Herero were gone. So were half the Nama. Germany called it a success. The world barely noticed. Decades later, the same empire would try again, with better weapons and fewer questions. The Herero were the test, and the world failed it. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 1915, the Ottoman Empire issued a single order: relocation. For Armenians, that meant one thing: walk. They were told to leave their homes. They were told they'd be moved for their safety. They were told it wasn't punishment. But the roads led to deserts, and the deserts led to graves. No supplies, no water, no end. The men were shot. The women were marched. The children starved. In some towns, priests were the first to go. In others, the last. Churches were emptied. Schools were locked. Trains ran in one direction only. The Ottomans called it order. The world called it silence. Years later, someone invented a word for what had happened. They called it genocide. Because no one had seen anything like it, not yet, but it wasn't the last. The Armenians were not erased, but they were warned, and the world was too. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 1939, the Soviet Union invaded Finland. 4 million soldiers, tanks, bombs, fire. Finland had 300,000 men, old rifles, white cloaks, and winter. The Soviets advanced in lines, through forests, across lakes, into fog. Then, they began to vanish. No battles, no gunfire, just blood on snow, and footprints that stopped. The Finns fought in silence, skis instead of trucks, knives instead of commands, one man instead of an army. His name was Simo Heiha. They called him the White Death. Over 500 kills in less than 100 days. He didn't wear medals, he didn't give speeches. He just waited, and fired, and disappeared. By the end, the Soviets had lost over 300,000 men, and Finland still stood. The war ended in a treaty, but not in defeat. Because the snow didn't hide the Finns. It became them. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Rome had never lost like this. In 216 BCE, they sent 80,000 men to crush one man. His name was Hannibal. He had half their numbers. No homeland, no reinforcements, just a plan. He placed his weakest soldiers at the center and waited. The Romans came straight for them, like he knew they would. His line bowed, then bent, then broke, on purpose. As the Romans surged forward, his cavalry wrapped around the sides. His infantry closed in from the rear. And suddenly, the largest army Rome had ever assembled was in a box made of men, and shields, and steel. They couldn't move. They couldn't retreat. They couldn't even lift their swords. By the end of the day, over 50,000 Romans were dead. It wasn't luck. It wasn't rage. It was geometry. It was genius. They still teach the maneuver. It has a name now, double envelopment. But in 216 BCE, they called it canny. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. 73 CE, the last of the Jewish rebels fled to a stone fortress in the sky, Masada. The Romans followed. They didn't storm the gates. They built a mountain, a siege ramp rising foot by foot, day by day, until the sky itself felt like it was closing in. Inside Masada, 960 men, women, and children watched. They sharpened blades. They whispered prayers. And they waited for the end. Their leader, Eleazar, drew no line. He simply said, "We will not be paraded. We will not be chained. We will die as free people." The Romans reached the top, but the rebels were gone. Fathers buried families. Brothers held brothers. The last man died with fire at his feet. There were no victors, only ash, only silence, and a legend that still echoes from the stone. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. After World War II ended, the United States made a decision not to build bombs, but to break minds. The Soviets had interrogation, the Chinese had indoctrination. So America asked, what do we have? The answer was MK Ultra. They tested LSD on patients who never gave consent. They hypnotized soldiers. They sleep-deprived prisoners. They erased names, and then they erased thoughts. College students, psychiatric patients, volunteers who didn't know they'd volunteered. Some forgot who they were. Some never came back. One jumped from a window. His file called it suicide. They filmed it, filed it, and burned it. The public never voted for this. Congress never approved it. But the minds were broken anyway. By 1973, they shredded what they could. What they missed still floats in black ink. A warning or a blueprint. This wasn't science. It was fear with funding. It was control as a cure. This is what war does after the fighting stops. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. April 1st, 1945, the Americans landed on Okinawa, and for the first few hours, no one fired a shot. The Japanese weren't gone. They were waiting, in caves, in cliffs, in silence. When the ambush came, it wasn't a battle. It was a bloodletting, banzai charges, landmines, women with grenades, children told, better to die than to live in shame. Marines fought for every yard, in mud, in fire, in screams that never stopped. Civilians jumped from cliffs. Mothers blew themselves up. Some caves were packed with people. And one grenade. There was no front line. There was only ground, and what it cost to take it. By the end, over 200,000 people were dead. The island was taken. But the war changed. Because after Okinawa, the Americans asked one question. If this is what it takes to invade Japan, what would the next island cost? So they chose something worse. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Before the war started, the country had already split, North and South, free and slave, one nation, two identities. Abraham Lincoln said it early, a house divided cannot stand. He was right, it didn't. The South seceded. The North refused to let go. And brothers became enemies because the flag meant different things on different porches. Young men marched with pride. Old men spoke of honor. But by the time Bull Run ended, glory was already gone. Shiloh, Antietam, Gettysburg. The names bled into numbers. And the numbers meant nothing. Sherman burned Georgia, Lee surrendered, Lincoln died, and 600,000 never came home. The war ended, but the wounds didn't. They still haven't. Because America didn't fall from the outside, it cracked from within. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Caligula, born Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus in 12 AD, was the third emperor of Rome, following his father Germanicus and great-grandfather Tiberius. His early life, marked by loss and instability, was a precursor to the psychosis that would unfold later in his reign. As a child, Caligula was loved by the Roman people, who saw him as a symbol of Roman greatness due to his father's reputation. His father's death under mysterious circumstances and his time in exile under Tiberius left lasting scars on the young man's psyche, planting the seeds for what would later become one of the most infamous reigns in Roman history. When Tiberius died in 37 AD, Caligula was hailed as emperor. Initially, his rule seemed promising. He enacted reforms, restored favor with the Senate, and was welcomed by the people of Rome. However, his mental state began to deteriorate, and his reign soon descended into madness and cruelty. Caligula's acts of violence, eccentricity, and cruelty were legendary. He declared himself a living god, insulted the Senate, and engaged in brutal purges. He even made his horse, Incitatus, a senator, showcasing his increasingly erratic behavior. The emperor's tyranny reached new heights with acts of cruelty, such as torturing senators, mass executions, and ordering the construction of lavish monuments to himself. His actions shocked the Roman elite and people, and his madness began to alienate even his closest allies. This led to a conspiracy among the Senate and the Praetorian Guard, which resulted in his assassination in 41 AD. His death marked the end of one of the most notorious reigns in Roman history, and the Senate damned his memory. His name was erased from public records, and his contributions to the empire were entirely forgotten. Caligula, born Gaius Julius Caesar Augustus Germanicus in 12 AD, was the third emperor of Rome, following his father Germanicus and great-grandfather Tiberius. His early life, marked by loss and instability, was a precursor to the psychosis that would unfold later in his reign. As a child, Caligula was loved by the Roman people, who saw him as a symbol of Roman greatness due to his father's reputation. His father's death under mysterious circumstances and his time in exile under Tiberius left lasting scars on the young man's psyche, planting the seeds for what would later become one of the most infamous reigns in Roman history. When Tiberius died in 37 AD, Caligula was hailed as emperor. Initially, his rule seemed promising. He enacted reforms, restored favor with the Senate, and was welcomed by the people of Rome. However, his mental state began to deteriorate, and his reign soon descended into madness and cruelty. Caligula's acts of violence, eccentricity, and cruelty were legendary. He declared himself a living god, insulted the Senate, and engaged in brutal purges. He even made his horse, Incitatus, a senator, showcasing his increasingly erratic behavior. The emperor's tyranny reached new heights with acts of cruelty, such as torturing senators, mass executions, and ordering the construction of lavish monuments to himself. His actions shocked the Roman elite and people, and his madness began to alienate even his closest allies. This led to a conspiracy among the Senate and the Praetorian Guard, which resulted in his assassination in 41 AD. His death marked the end of one of the most notorious reigns in Roman history, and the Senate damned his memory. His name was erased from public records, and his contributions to the empire were entirely forgotten. February 13, 1945. The war was nearly over, but Dresden was just beginning. They said it was a military target, but Dresden wasn't a fortress. It was art. It was music. It was a place people fled to be safe. Then the sirens started. Not screaming, singing. Everyone moved underground. They didn't know the fire was coming from the sky. British bombers came first, then the Americans. Then fire. Not explosions, a firestorm. So hot the oxygen burned. So fast, the wind pulled people out of buildings and into flame. There was no shelter. The water evaporated, the stone melted, basements turned into ovens, children turned to smoke, and then there was silence. By morning, Dresden was ash. The city had no weapons, only people, and history, and heat. Some called it justice. Others called it revenge. But everyone remembered the smell. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. First came the void, a broken Iraq, a burning Syria, 1,000 factions, no direction. Then came the flag, black, unapologetic, no nation, just belief. ISIS didn't invent terror, they inherited it from Al-Qaeda, from Osama bin Laden, from his call for a war against the Crusaders. But they weren't fighting in caves. They were building cities, a caliphate, a state with law and cameras. They filmed executions like films, trained children like soldiers, replaced prayer with punishment, replaced school books with ideology. Every bullet was a lesson, every beheading a message, every slogan a ritual. They taxed, they governed, they franchised. It wasn't random, it was designed. When the cities fell, the servers stayed. When the soldiers died, the footage lived. And now, long after the black flag was torn down, the blueprint still circulates, online, in minds, in silence. Because ISIS was never just a group. It was a model, a system, a future someone is still watching. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. George S. Patton didn't walk onto the battlefield. He stormed it. Clad in his twin-star helmet, pearl-handled pistol on his hip, he demanded obedience or stepped over the disobedient. In North Africa, he crushed Rommel's elite, not with numbers, but with fury. But for Patton, the enemy wasn't just the Nazis. It was Montgomery, the British field marshal who dared to outpace him. Patton didn't want to win the war. He wanted to conquer it. Berlin wasn't a target. It was a prize, and Patton would fight allies to claim it. Behind closed doors, his rage boiled. He slapped soldiers, defied orders, and mocked diplomacy. Relieved of command, abandoned by politics, he faded into silence, but his ghost still marches. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Germany lost the First World War, and it didn't take it well. Humiliation turned into hunger. Hunger turned into hatred, and hatred needed a face. Then came a voice. It didn't promise food. It promised greatness. The rallies began. The cameras rolled. The papers obeyed. And a ministry of propaganda told an entire country what to see. Not truth. Image. Not freedom. Obedience. One man became a myth. A myth became a nation. He was the boy who watched Rome burn. And a nation became a machine. He became the man who made Carthage bleed. Then the books. Scipio Africanus didn't fight Hannibal in the Alps. But behind every stage was a prison. He learned. Behind every parade, when the time came, a grave. They didn't Hannibal's with tanks. He buried it under silence, with fear. Hannibal had terrorized Rome for over a decade. And by the time anyone looked behind the curtain, every general the stage was already burning. But at Zama, follow us someone raised in his shadow, psychology for more historic battles, by fear, and by the minds behind them. By he purpose. Was the boy who watched Scipio Rome burn. Didn't want to win the war. He became the man who wanted to end the bleed. And when Hannibal Scipio fell, Africanus didn't fight Hannibal in the Alps. Him. He waited. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology, and when the time historic battles, he didn't match Hannibal's rage. Behind them. He buried it under silence. Hannibal had terrorized Rome for over a decade, crushed it at Cannae, outwitted every general they sent. But at Zama, he met someone raised in his shadow, a mind sharpened by fear, by humiliation, by purpose. Scipio didn't want to win the war. He wanted to end the myth. And when Hannibal fell, so did the empire behind him. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 525 BCE, at the gateway to Egypt, terror did not arrive on horseback. It arrived on paws. Cambyses II, king of Persia, understood one truth. To break a man, you must break his belief. So when his army reached Pelusium, they carried shields, and painted on each one was a cat. To the Egyptians, cats were sacred, symbols of life, gods in fur, and now they were weapons. Pharaoh Psamtik watched from the walls as his archers refused to shoot, not out of fear of Persia, but fear of the gods they might strike. The Persians didn't win with swords. They won with silence, with hesitation, with psychological war. Egypt surrendered not to blood, but to blasphemy. And on that day, the gods of Egypt were used to destroy it. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more forgotten battles and the minds behind them. In 1947, the British left India, but first they drew a line. They called it independence, but it wasn't freedom. It was division. One country became two: India, Pakistan, based not on geography, but on faith. The man who drew the border never stepped foot on it. He had 35 days to divide 400 million people, so they used census data, old maps, and guesswork. Families woke up in the wrong country. Neighbors became strangers. Friends became enemies. Trains full of refugees arrived empty. Camps overflowed. Rivers turned red. Over 1 million died. 15 million were displaced. And the world called it necessary. But some say it was by design. Better to have India and Pakistan fight each other than look back at the empire that broke them both. They divided the land, then blamed the people for the blood. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In 1971, East Pakistan voted, overwhelmingly, democratically, for independence. West Pakistan said no, then sent tanks. Operation Searchlight began, not against armies, but against students, teachers, doctors, journalists. Dhaka University burned. So did villages. So did names. The list was clear. Intellectuals first, women next, then anyone who stayed behind. They called it a crackdown. It was a blueprint. 10 million fled to India, 1 million died, and the world barely flinched. In December, the Mukti Bahini rose. India joined. The war ended, but the wounds didn't. Bangladesh was born, not with celebration, but with silence and graves. This wasn't just a war, it was a cleansing. They tried to erase a people and created a country. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In the 1970s, Iran looked like the future. Neon lights, women in miniskirts, Western music on cassette. Tehran was Paris in the desert. But far away, in exile, another voice was recording a different kind of cassette. Ayatollah Khomeini didn't shout. He whispered. He didn't wave flags. He mailed tapes. They crossed borders, crossed classes, entered homes, entered heads. He said Islam had been replaced, that the Shah was a fraud, that Iran was ready to return, not to freedom, to order. And people listened, not because of poverty, not because of faith, because his voice filled the silence the Shah left behind. By 1979, the music had stopped, the lights had gone out, and the man with the microphone had returned. The crowds cheered. The West watched, and the future closed like a gate. He didn't fire a shot. He didn't lead an army. He just recorded. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. In the blistering heat of January 1879, at a remote mission station in the British colony of Natal, a storm was brewing. Rorke's Drift, a small supply post defended by just over 150 British soldiers, found itself in the path of a Zulu force over 4,000 strong. Fresh from their devastating victory at Isandlwana, the Zulu warriors, fearless and organized, marched with deadly precision. Inside the station, Lieutenants John Chard and Gonville Bromhead prepared for annihilation. They weren't seasoned veterans. They were engineers, clerks, and privates turned barricade builders overnight. With shaking hands, they stacked mealie bags and crates, turning a chapel and hospital into a fortress of desperation. They weren't just fighting for survival. They were fighting for control, for sanity, for something to hold on to in the face of death. As the first war chants echoed across the plains, the ground seemed to tremble. The Zulus charged, wave after wave, armed with assegais and cowhide shields, determined to break the thin red line. Martini Henry rifles answered back, filling the air with smoke, blood, and screams. When the hospital caught fire, wounded men crawled through smoke and flame, dragged to safety by their brothers in arms. By nightfall, the station was hell on earth. Torches lit twisted shadows on the walls, and the cries of the wounded never stopped. Men like Private Hook, once accused of cowardice, fought like demons. Chard and Bromhead led from the front, exhausted, blistered, blood-stained, their faces carved by fear and defiance. And then, silence. At dawn, the Zulu impi stood still. They looked once more upon the station, then turned, and vanished. The British had held. But what they'd kept was more than just ground. They kept their lives and lost their innocence. Rourke's drift wasn't a victory. It was a reckoning. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. It began as a church. Then it became a movement. Then it moved into the jungle. Jim Jones promised freedom, equality, utopia. He called it Jonestown. They left America to escape it. What they found was a man with a microphone, and 900 people too tired to question him. He didn't scream. He didn't threaten. He just spoke. And when he spoke, they listened. He burned photos of their past. He gave them drills in the night, cups in the dark, tests of loyalty disguised as warnings. Then, one day, it wasn't a drill. A congressman came, and he didn't leave. And Jim Jones said, "Now they'll come for us. Drink, obey, die." They lined up. Children first, then elders, then everyone else. No one ran, no one screamed, because by then, no one believed they had a choice. 918 people died that day. Not because they wanted to, because they were told to. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. It didn't begin with machetes. It began with measurements. In the 1930s, Belgian colonizers came to Rwanda. They brought rulers. They measured foreheads, nose width, skull shape, and they used those numbers to divide a people: Hutu, Tutsi, Twa. They printed identity cards. They made those labels law. And then they left. The cards stayed. Decades later, a plane exploded, and a radio turned on. The voice said, "They are cockroaches. Find them. Kill them." And people listened. Neighbors turned on neighbors. Teachers turned on students. Churches turned into graves. The world watched and walked away. 800,000 died in 100 days, not because of hatred, but because of classification, because of obedience, because someone said who was human and who was not. It wasn't the machete, it was the microphone, and the system that taught people who to aim it at. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. June 6, 1944. Dawn breaks over the English Channel. The sea is quiet, but the shore is waiting. They called it D-Day. But this is not a strategy. This is the first hour. Inside the landing craft, men whisper prayers. Others are silent, staring at a wall of water and wire. Their uniforms are soaked. Their rifles are heavy. Their faces are 19. The ramp drops, and the beach opens its mouth. The first wave is cut down before they reach sand. Machine guns, mortars, shrapnel. Some try to swim. Others try to run. Most just sink. Those who crawl forward find no shelter, only craters, barbed wire, and the remains of the last man who tried. Orders still come. Advance. But no one's voice carries through the smoke. A few make it to the dunes. They take a bunker. They reload. They move again. The beach behind them is red. The water is still moving, and new boats are coming. This is the first hour, and no one remembers how long it felt. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. London, 1888. Fog chokes the alleys, gas lamps flicker, and death walks in silence. They called him Jack the Ripper, but no one ever saw his face. He struck only at night, fast, precise, vanishing before the scream even echoed. The women of Whitechapel had nothing except fear. And still, they walked the same cold streets because they had no choice. The bodies were found torn open, the police baffled. The killer left no prints, only notes. Notes soaked in blood, signed from hell. Every man became a suspect, every shadow a warning. The newspapers called him a demon. The people called him unstoppable. He watched from rooftops, from the fog, from behind your shoulder. He can be a doctor, a noble, the man beside you at the pub, and then nothing. He disappeared. No arrest, no justice, only myth. Jack the Ripper wasn't just a man. He was fear itself, and fear never dies. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic crimes and the minds behind them. In 1953, he attacked a barracks with fewer men than bullets. He lost. He was arrested. He smiled anyway. In court, he said, "History will absolve me." It did. 6 years later, he walked into Havana, not as a prisoner, but as a revolution. They called him a dictator, a rebel, a threat. He called himself a survivor. The CIA tried to kill him. The US tried to invade him. The Soviets tried to use him. He outlasted all of them. In 1962, the world came to the edge of fire, 59 minutes from nuclear war, and Cuba, his Cuba, was the trigger. He didn't blink. He didn't bend. He wasn't even in the room. When the missiles left, he stayed. The world kept moving. But the island didn't bow, and neither did the man who led it. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. November 11th, 1918. At 5:10 a.m., the armistice was signed. The war was over, but not yet. The fighting would stop at exactly 11 a.m. Everyone knew it. And still, the orders came. Attack, advance, take that hill, clear that trench. They had 6 hours left, and they were told to use them. American, British, French, they followed orders. Because that's what war teaches you. German gunners knew the war was over. They fired anyway. Because that's what war does to you. Men died at 10:20, 10:40, 10:58. One man was shot through the heart at 10:59. His watch stopped at the same time. The last man to die in World War I was killed 1 minute before peace. He had orders, and he obeyed them. That's how the war ended. Not with glory, not with relief, but with 1 more minute of death. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. On December 24th, 1914, the guns stopped. No one gave the order. No treaty was signed. Just quiet. From one trench, a voice sang, "Stille Nacht." Across the frozen earth, another joined in, and then another. Candlelight flickered. Fir trees rose from the mud. Men climbed out of their graves without rifles and walked toward the enemy. They shook hands, traded chocolate, played a game. No one smiled fully. They were too tired, too aware. For one night, they were not soldiers, just human. They buried their dead together, said prayers in different tongues, then watched each other disappear into opposite trenches, knowing what came next, because peace was never meant to last. The next morning, they loaded their rifles again and began killing the men they had called friend the night before. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Oskar Schindler, a German businessman, became an unlikely hero during the Holocaust. Initially motivated by profit, Schindler's transformation into a savior of over 1,000 Jewish lives is a story of moral awakening, courage, and psychological warfare. His journey from profiteer to humanitarian is a testament to the power of individual action in the face of overwhelming evil. At the start of World War II, Schindler saw opportunity in the Nazi-controlled territories and established an enamelware factory in Krakow. His initial motivations were purely financial. He sought to exploit Jewish labor to meet the demands of the Nazi war effort. But as Schindler witnessed the horrors of the Nazi regime, including the brutal deportations and massacres of Jews, his priorities began to change. Schindler's own eyes were opened to the reality of the Holocaust, and his ethical and moral compass took a sharp turn. Schindler began using his factory to protect his Jewish workers from being sent to concentration camps. He used bribes and influence to shield his workers, even at great personal cost. He spent his entire fortune, everything he had earned, on bribes, securing the lives of over 1,100 Jewish people who would otherwise have been sent to their deaths. His factory, which had once produced goods for the Nazi war machine, became a place of refuge and hope. Despite the extreme danger Schindler faced, he refused to abandon his workers. His efforts not only saved lives, but demonstrated the power of empathy and resilience in the face of unimaginable evil. Schindler's transformation from a businessman motivated by self-interest to a savior who risked everything for others is one of the greatest examples of human compassion and courage. His legacy, immortalized in Schindler's List, continues to inspire and teach us about the human capacity for good, even in the darkest times. Schindler's story reminds us that one person, driven by the right moral convictions, can make a lasting difference, even when standing up against the greatest forces of oppression. This dark anime rendition of Schindler's journey brings his story to life in a bold, visual style that emphasizes the emotional depth, heroic sacrifice, and the gritty determination Schindler exhibited in his efforts to save lives. Delve into history's epic battles and the minds behind them. Subscribe to Mindcraft Dark Psychology. Oskar Schindler was a German businessman who became an unexpected hero during one of the darkest times in history. At the start of World War II, Schindler was a businessman seeking profit, looking to take advantage of the cheap Jewish labor in Nazi-occupied Poland. He established an enamelware factory in Krakow, employing Jewish workers to produce goods for the Nazi war effort. His initial motivations were selfish, driven by the allure of wealth and the opportunities provided by the Nazi regime. However, as Schindler witnessed the brutality of the Nazis and saw the horrific treatment of Jews, his perspective began to shift. Over time, Schindler transformed from a profiteer to a humanitarian who would risk everything to save as many lives as possible. The turning point came when Schindler realized the full scale of the Nazi genocide and the mass extermination of the Jewish people. As the brutal realities of the Holocaust unfolded before him, Schindler made a decisive choice to use his factory as a refuge for the Jews under his protection. In a series of strategic moves, Schindler bribed Nazi officials and used his influence to keep his workers from being sent to concentration camps. His factory, which once produced war materials for the Nazi regime, became a sanctuary where Jewish people could find safety against all odds. Over time, Schindler would save over 1,200 Jewish lives, each person carefully placed on Schindler's List, a list that would become a symbol of salvation during one of humanity's darkest times. Schindler's actions were not driven by heroism alone, but by an overwhelming moral duty. He risked his wealth, his safety, and his reputation to save those who were deemed expendable by the Nazis. While many might have turned a blind eye, Schindler used his wealth and influence to subvert the Nazi system from within. He took risks, that others wouldn't dare to take, paying bribes, using his business connections, and leveraging his status as a member of the Nazi Party to shield his workers from certain death. The cost of Schindler's heroism was high. He spent all of his fortune to save as many Jews as he could. By the end of the war, Schindler was penniless, having sacrificed everything to ensure his workers' safety. He went from being a man focused on profit to a man who understood that some things are far more valuable than wealth, like the lives of others. Schindler's legacy is an example of the power of individual action in the face of unimaginable evil. His actions show that even in the most oppressive systems, one man can make a difference and save lives. Schindler's story proves that humanity and compassion can thrive even in the darkest times. The story of Oskar Schindler remains a beacon of hope and inspiration. His transformation from a Nazi collaborator to a savior of Jewish lives is a testament to the power of courage, integrity, and selflessness. Schindler's legacy lives on through the survivors he saved, their families, and the generations that continue to learn about his incredible actions. Delve into history's epic battles and the minds behind them. Subscribe to Mindcraft Dark Psychology. Theodore Roosevelt, the 26th President of the United States, is remembered as a fierce advocate for American strength, both in domestic policy and on the global stage. His legacy as a military leader is largely defined by his role in the Spanish-American War, his Rough Riders cavalry charge, and his leadership during the early stages of World War I. Roosevelt's story as a wartime leader began long before he became president. In 1898, as the Spanish-American War erupted, Roosevelt, then the Assistant Secretary of the Navy, famously resigned his position to join the fight as the leader of the Rough Riders. His charge up San Juan Hill in Cuba became one of the most iconic military moments in American history. Despite having no prior combat experience, Roosevelt's bravery and strategic foresight earned him national fame, and he returned from the war as a hero, solidifying his political career. During his presidency, 1901 to 1909, Roosevelt further enhanced America's military presence, advocating for the construction of a modern navy and securing the country's position as a rising global power. Though he was not in office during World War I, Roosevelt's influence on military preparedness and his calls for greater American involvement were critical. He openly criticized President Woodrow Wilson's stance of neutrality, urging America to prepare for conflict in order to maintain its standing on the world stage. Roosevelt's personality was larger than life, often described as brimming with boundless energy, ambition, and self-belief. His psychological makeup as a leader, decisive, fearless, and deeply patriotic, guided him throughout his military and political career. He remained an iconic figure of American leadership and was deeply committed to making the U.S. a powerful force for both democracy and peace across the globe. They didn't start with armies, they started with trade, a contract here, a treaty there, and soon, a flag. India, Africa, the Caribbean. It didn't matter where, only that the sun never set on it. They built railroads and banks. They taught English in places that already had languages. They called it duty. Others called it theft. They fought rebellions with silence, and if that failed, with bullets. The red on the map grew. So did the resentment. But empires don't fall with battles. They fall with time. First India, then Africa, then the rest. There was no final war, just embassies where governments used to be, and museum glass where the flags once flew. And when it was over, the people who once ruled a quarter of the world stood in line to watch history under lights that didn't flicker. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. They said it would be over by Christmas. It lasted 4 years. and cost the world 20 million lives. This wasn't war. This was mud, wire, gas, and silence. Trenches became homes. No man's land became graves. Bullets became background noise. Boys became bones before they became men. And the only thing louder than the machine guns was the fear. They invented new ways to kill and no way to leave. Gas that burned the lungs, shells that buried minds, orders that sent thousands to die for 10 yards of dirt, a whistle, a charge, and then nothing. No glory, no songs, just broken bodies, and mothers who stopped hoping for letters. And when it finally ended, they called it the war to end all wars. But we never stopped digging trenches, we just learned how to dig them faster. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. They were 65 men, surrounded by over 2,000, and they did not surrender. On April 30th, 1863, Captain Jean d'Anjou and his French Foreign Legionnaires were escorting a supply convoy in Mexico when the trap closed. They fell back to a crumbling hacienda. No reinforcements, no escape, just sandbags, rifles, and a wooden hand. They could have surrendered. Most men would have. But they were not most men. They were legion. Wave after wave came. Mexican rifles, cavalry, muskets, fire. The legion held. They fought until they ran out of bullets. Then they fought with bayonets, then knives, then fists. Captain d'Anjou died with his hand in the dirt. But his men, they made a promise. We will fight to the death, and we will not lower our flag. At sunset, only 3 legionnaires remained. The enemy commander spared them because they had earned it. And to this day, every legionnaire swears an oath not to win, but to never surrender. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. They were told to walk, not run, walk. On July 1st, 1916, at dawn, the British Army rose from the trenches, line by line, shoulder to shoulder, as if they weren't marching into machine guns, but into history. The whistles blew, and the lines advanced. German gunners didn't need to aim, they just pulled the trigger and watched entire rows collapse. Some men never made it 10 yards, some got further, only to realize they were alone. Command said, "Hold the line," even when the line had become a grave. By the end of day 1, 20,000 were dead. The next day, another line, another whistle, another sacrifice. This wasn't strategy. This was ritual. And when it was all over, the generals said, "We have learned something." The only thing the men in lines learned was that dying can be orderly. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. They were warned. They stayed anyway. In March of 1836, fewer than 200 Texan defenders took shelter in an old Spanish mission. A crumbling shell with no reinforcements and no chance. Outside, General Santa Anna brought over 2,000 men, cannons, cavalry, no mercy. Inside the walls of the Alamo, Colonel Travis drew a line in the dust with his sword. "Cross this, if you're ready to die here." Every man stepped forward, even the wounded, even the ones who knew they'd never fire a second shot. They weren't fighting to win. They were fighting to be remembered. For 13 days, the sky above San Antonio was black with smoke. Then, on the final day, the walls fell. They died in doorways, on the chapel floor. One still held the flag when the dust cleared. The enemy took the mission, but they couldn't kill the myth, because sometimes the power to choose how you die is more powerful than how you live. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Verdun wasn't a battle, it was a sentence. In 1916, Germany planned to bleed France dry, not by winning, but by making them defend to the last man. It worked. For 300 days, the guns never stopped. The ground broke before the line did. Trenches filled with blood. Rats grew fat, and men forgot their names. Soldiers were rotated constantly. But some stayed so long, they forgot there was a world outside the wire. They fought for 10 feet. They died for 5. They charged for nothing. And still, they whispered, "They shall not pass." That wasn't a rallying cry. It was a ritual, a spell spoken by broken jaws and shaking hands. Fortresses fell, cities burned. But the line did not move. When it ended, nothing was gained. Only ghosts remained, buried in mud and steel and silence. Verdun was not a victory. It was survival. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. World War II ended in fire. The Cold War began in silence. There were no trenches, no front lines, only buttons, only countdowns, 2 sides, 2 flags, and one shared secret. If either one moved, the world ended. America dropped the bomb. Russia built their own. And from that day forward, everyone lived in crosshairs. Children hid under desks. Civilians memorized fallout shelters. Presidents rehearsed the end of humanity by phone. Wars were fought with cameras and radio waves and whispers in alleyways. Dissent vanished in Moscow, in Washington, in your neighbor's house. The wall went up in Berlin, so no one would need to ask, "Which side are you on?" Propaganda became language. Fear became policy. And silence became survival. The Cold War never exploded. It just waited until one flag fell and the world exhaled. For the first time in 50 years, follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them. Adolf Hitler didn't just start a war, he started a movement. With words alone, he rewired the minds of millions. He turned microphones into weapons, rallies into rituals, and propaganda into prophecy. People didn't follow him out of love. They followed because they believed they had no choice. He painted enemies with myth. He offered salvation through sacrifice and disguised hatred as hope. This wasn't just evil, it was engineered belief, a psychological system designed to infect nations, fear, repetition, identity, division. He didn't conquer by force, he conquered by narrative. This is dark psychology at scale, mass manipulation through charisma, control, and cultural hypnosis. Adolf Hitler, the architect of influence. Follow for more minds that ruled through fear and persuasion. History remembers the victories, but forgets the minds that made them possible. From empires built on fear to rulers who rewrote truth itself. Welcome to Mindcraft Dark History. We uncover how the greatest figures in history used dark psychology, ruthless strategy, and pure will to conquer, influence, and control. Genghis Khan, Machiavelli, Stalin, Rasputin, not just names, not just men, but minds who mastered manipulation. Every week, we explore the shadowy tactics that built and broke the world. This isn't just history, it's how power really works. Subscribe now and unlock the mind behind the myth. They were told to walk, not run. Walk. On July 1st, 1916, at dawn, the British Army rose from the trenches, line by line, shoulder to shoulder, as if they weren't marching into machine guns, but into history. The whistles blew, and the lines advanced. German gunners didn't need to aim, they just pulled the trigger and watched entire rows collapse. Some men never made it 10 yards, some got further, only to realize they were alone. Command said, "Hold the line," even when the line had become a grave. By the end of day 1, 20,000 were dead. The next day, Another line, another whistle, another sacrifice. This wasn't strategy. This was ritual. And when it was all over, the generals said, "We have learned something." The only thing the men in lines learned was that dying can be orderly. Follow us at Mindcraft Dark Psychology for more historic battles and the minds behind them.